Okay, so the next chapter book that we're going to start reading, kiddos, is Escape to Witch Mountain. Escape to Witch Mountain. So it looks like there's a boy and a girl and maybe some kind of alien element based on the picture. And it looks like, if you're looking at the picture, these kiddos, they're running towards the alien ship. So let's see if we can figure out why they would be running towards the alien ship instead of running away. So they're trying to get to the aliens. So they're escaping to Witch Mountain. Let's see what that is. All right. Oh, so look, this might be key. To all orphans of all worlds. Remember, an orphan is someone who is a child who doesn't have a home. Okay, they don't live with their parents and they live in maybe what's called like a foster home, or they just call them group homes. Okay. Chapter 1, Starbucks. Tony, carrying their bags, followed his sister Tia and the welfare worker down the tin-up steps to the sidewalk. While the welfare worker unlocked her car, Tony looked unhappily around the ugly world of South Water Street, knowing he was seeing it for the last time. He and Tia had never loved it. It wasn't the world they belonged to, but at least it had been home. Okay, so I want y'all to tell me on your paper who is telling the story. From whose point of view is telling the story? Is it the welfare worker or Tony? Whose point of view is the story coming from? The welfare worker or Tony? Okay. For a moment, as he stood there, he wondered again about the world they had come from and if they would ever find it, in what direction it lay, or how one got there. He hadn't the slightest idea. Maybe Tia had once said, all we have to do is climb a certain stairway or go around a strange corner, and there it'll be. Just like that, he said, laughing. Why not? She insisted. We know the kind of place it is. It's full of magic and music, for that's the only kind of place we could have come from. So why wouldn't we have to find it sort of magically? Okay, so let me describe something to you real quick. Tia and Tony are getting picked up by a welfare worker. A welfare worker is typically somebody who works with foster kids, and foster kids are those children who do not have homes. Okay, for whatever reason, they could not stay at their current home, so they are put into foster care or in an orphanage, and they are cared for by the state instead of a home. So it sounds like they were in some kind of home in South Water Street, and now they are saying they don't belong anywhere, but they think that where they came from was magical, and they want to try and find that place. Okay, so let's answer another question. Who is Tia? Is Tia the welfare sister or Tony's sister? Who is Tia? Is she the welfare worker sister or Tony's sister? Okay, so let's go back to reading. So they think they can find where they are from magically. Maybe it didn't exactly make sense, the way Tia had put it, but he was sure of one thing. Considering how unlike other people they were, it was the only kind of world they could have come from. So it must be somewhere. The welfare worker said irritably, we haven't got all day. Put your things in the car. Where are we going? Tony asked uneasily. The Hackett house, of course. Okay, how does it seem like the welfare worker is feeling? Let's read this sentence again. The welfare worker said irritably, we haven't got all day. Put your things in the car. Does it sound like the welfare worker is happy or annoyed, maybe irritated or unhappy? So is the welfare worker happy or annoyed? Okay, let's keep working. So now the welfare worker is about to take him to another house called the Hackett house. On the other side of the city, Tony stared in dismay at the gaunt old brick building with its high iron fence surrounding the bare play yard. The place seemed almost like a jail. Then he remembered the Hackett house was more of a detention home than an orphanage, for orphans in good standing were never sent here. Okay, So he's describing the Hackett House as a place where bad orphans go. So they must have done something to where the welfare worker thought that they were bad, and now they're going to this Hackett House orphanage. Inside, Miss Trask, the welfare worker, presented them to Mrs. Grindley, the matron, who had once been a policewoman. From the expressionless way Miss Grindley looked over them, as if she were viewing a pair of strange and doubtful fish that had been dredged up the harbor depths, Tony knew that the days ahead were not going to be overflowing with sweetness and light. At that moment, he was extremely conscious of the differences that set Tia and himself apart from others. Their pale hair and olive skins, their slenderness, and their dark blue eyes that were almost black. Mrs. Grindley gave a baffled shake of her head. "I can't place these two, Miss Trask. Where did they come from?" Okay, your next question. What orphanage house did they go to? Did they go to the McDonald House or the Hackett House? What house did the welfare worker take them? Did they go to the McDonald House or the Hackett House? "That South Water Street area near the docks," replied the welfare worker, a little wearily. "They lived there and with an old woman. No known relatives. Exact ages unknown. Nationality doubtful. My office hasn't had time to check their school records, but the police say the boy has a bad reputation for fighting. The girl has been accused of theft." Okay, so it sounds like Tony has maybe a temper because he has been known for what? What did it say he's known for? Fighting or stealing? The boy. What is the boy known for? Tony. Is he known for fighting or stealing? Okay. And then his sister, it says right here, the girl has been known for theft. Another word for theft is to steal. So either way, doesn't sound like they've got good things going on. "The police were wrong," Tony interrupted. "Tia went into that building to take a kitten out of a trap. She's a softie for cats. She never—" "Hush up," the matron told him in her flat voice, "and don't ever let me catch you fighting here, or you'll learn what trouble is. Go on, Miss Trask." "Well, for the past 10 years, they've been living with this old woman. They called their grandmother a Miss Nellie Malone. She was struck by a taxi yesterday and died. The children have been using her name, but we've discovered that they are just unknown orphans Miss Malone took in." "I see." Miss Grindley glanced at Tia, whose thin elfin face was pinched with misery, then at Tony, who stood half a head taller. "Have you had any idea what your real name is or where you come from?" The questions had become the most important ones in Tony's life, but at the moment he could only look at her bleakly and give a mumbled "No, ma'am." The shock of losing Granny Malone was still with him. She was the only person who cared for Tia and himself, and the hurt went deep. Okay, so now Tony and Tia are at this new orphan house, and we just found out that the lady that they were living with before had passed away. She died. And how did she die? Did she die from old age or a car accident? How did the lady taking care of Tony and Tia die? Old age or a car accident? Okay. And then her name that was taking care of them was Mrs. Nellie Malone. She had passed away. So now they're having to go to this orphan house. And they don't even know their real names, guys. They just, this Tony and Tia, that's names that they've made up for themselves. So let's go write in our journal. We're going to stop there just so that we can practice some journal writing. All right, so I'm on a different iPad. We're going to go do it in this. Maybe not. I'm just going to pretend to email you. And y'all can screenshot this. Okay. Here we go. So, y'all write this in your journal. This is just the only way that I can write without it. I got to get my explain everything on all of my iPads here. Okay? So here we go. So we always start off our paragraph with the date. And our date today is March 23rd. So March 23rd, 2020. Remember, I have the capital M because it's a proper noun. 23 is the day, comma, and 2020 is the year. Remember, we separate those so we know which is which. Okay, so that might keep popping up. Just stay patient. I'll make sure to take a screenshot for y'all. All right, so first, we read about Tony and who is his sister? His sister is Tia, right? Tony and Tia being picked up by the welfare worker. Okay? We didn't know at the time that Mrs. Malone had passed away, but first we know that they were being picked up. Okay? Now the next part of my paragraph is then we read about the welfare worker taking them to was it the McDonald house or the Hackett house? Hopefully y'all chose Hackett house. And that is just another orphan house. But we found out as we were reading that the Hackett house is supposed to be for those bad orphans. And according to the welfare worker, apparently Tony fights and Tia sometimes steals. But I think we're going to find out later that might not be exactly true. Okay, let's finish up. Finally, we read about Mrs. Malone. That was the lady taking care of them, dying in a car accident. And that is why they were put into the orphan home. Okay? So, again, I'll make sure that all my stuff is downloaded on all my iPads, but this is our journal entry for today. I want you to write this in your journal and take a screenshot for me. Go ahead and screenshot this page or this part of the video and make it bigger. You can enlarge it. So you would take a screenshot, like that with that button and the top button, and then you can enlarge it by going like this on your screen. Okay? So write in your journal, send me a picture.